the AME television show. My name is Jason Dowd. I'm your host, and I'm going to be bringing you some interviews with some celebrities today. Now, these interviews aren't actually brand new. I've taped them a long time ago, and I thought I lost them. But what's good about them is they're movies, so you can go see these movies anywhere that you can rent a movie. If you haven't heard about these movies, they're probably ones you want to see because they really were good. I actually saw all of these movies and really enjoyed them. My first guest is Missi Pyle. If you don't know who Missi Pyle is, you probably remember her from Dodgeball. She was the opponent. She was that big, tall woman that everybody was afraid of from the Ukraine. She played on The Artist, and what we're going to be talking to her about is the movie The Artist and her part that she played. So let's go talk to Missi right now, and I'll be right back with some more guests.
This is Jason with the World of Art TV and the Expressionist magazine talking with Missi Pyle from the movie The Artist. She's also appeared on Dodgeball, 50 First Dates, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Welcome, Missi.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here.
Tell us about The Artist and what was the movie all about?
Well, the movie is basically about the time when movies went from being silent films into the talkies, and it centers around George Valentine, who's a huge silent film star, and it's about his transition into the talkies. He doesn't really want to embrace that, and it's basically there's a young up-and-comer named Peppy Miller, who's played by Berenice Bejo, and she is just an extra in the silent film era, and then she becomes like a huge star in the talkies, and it's just sort of like the decline of this one person, the rise of another, and it's basically a love story and a love letter to that era of cinema.
And do you appreciate silent films and movies from Hollywood's early years, and did that help inspire you to take the role on The Artist?
Well, I absolutely do appreciate them. Obviously, they are sort of like the backbone of what modern cinema is today, and I think that ultimately, you know, my love for that, I just thought it would be a phenomenal project to be a part of, and I also feel like, too, the reason this movie was so successful is I think that there's something that gets a little bit lost as we get into these huge, you know, these huge movies that have, like, you know, all kinds of special effects and green screen, and you know, you can, I think, wasn't 300 shot almost entirely green screen, so I feel like people watching this movie go back to kind of what the cinema was really all about, and like you can sort of lose yourself in a movie, and a movie can change you and sort of move you, and I think that's what people really loved about this movie.
And tell us about your character, Constance, and the role that she had in the movie.
Constance is she's a silent film movie star, and she's, you know, questionably not necessarily a great movie star, a great actress, but she also doesn't do very well in the transition from the silent movies to the talkies.
And how was your role different from any other roles that you played?
Well, the fundamental difference is obviously that this was a silent film character. I've never done that before. I've never even acted in a silent film, so that was definitely a challenge. But also, I think this was just it was really fun because it was also improv. You know, there wasn't a script, so I got to really, I felt like it was a lot more free, if that makes any sense.
It does. Well, that's all I have time for today, so I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me.
Thanks, Jason.
And, oh, you're welcome.
My next guest is Jason, Mara and Daniel Sunjata, and they played on One for the Money. This is a movie that came out about a couple years ago, but it's a really funny movie, and it was also kind of like a comedy drama. We're going to be talking to them about the movie and some of their past experiences in the theaters. Let's talk to them right now.
This is Jason with the Expressionist magazine and the World of Art TV and radio show. I'm joined today by Jason O'Mara and Daniel Sunjata from the new upcoming movie, One for the Money. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thanks. How about you?
Fantastic. So, what is the movie One for the Money all about?
Wow. Depends on who you ask, but One for the Money is a story about Stephanie Plum. She's a girl who used to sell lingerie and now finds herself in a situation where she has to learn the fine art of bounty hunting in order to apprehend a former lover of hers who is now on the run from the law, even though he himself is a cop. He's been accused of a murder that he didn't commit. This is played geniusly by my cohort here, Mr. Jason O'Mara. And I play the character of Ranger, who comes in and kind of tries to show her exactly how to go about apprehending a fugitive without getting herself killed in the process.
You're awesome as Ranger, by the way.
That's true.
And let's,
love fest. It's a love fest.
This question is actually for each of you. So what made each of you decide to take the roles that you did, Joseph, Morelli, and Ranger?
I can say for myself, I was not in a position to say no to any role that was offered to me. At the time that I got this job, I was so glad to even have the opportunity to work that I wasn't going to say no. But
well, you know, pretty much the same way. I just come back from London doing a play, so I was looking to do a movie, and this came along, and I hadn't really heard about the books. I was sort of vaguely aware of them, but I hadn't really heard about them, and so by the time I auditioned and then had a call back with Katherine and got the offer for the job, I thought, you know, it was incumbent on me to read the books. So I did, and I realized just how steeped in fandom this book series is. There are a lot of people who have loved these books for many years. This movie, One for the Money, the book was first published, you know, I think 18 years ago or 20 years ago. So there's been a lot of time for people to develop a true love for the series. So this was something that I only realized after accepting the job. So it's quite a daunting task playing a character from fiction who's so beloved. But no, honestly, I've always admired Katherine Heigl, and I thought this character was really fun. It was only afterwards I realized that I had to work really hard to get it right.
So for each of you, how closely do you resemble your characters in real life?
I certainly, I don't think I have very much in common with the average bounty hunter at all. But I can tell you that in the book, Ranger has a ponytail, and we didn't decide to go with that for the movie. So, and I don't wear a ponytail in real life. I'm glad that they made that choice. Ponytails and tough guy to me don't go together.
Yeah, I think in the book I'm supposed to have brown eyes, but I have blue eyes, and I'm supposed to have like an eagle tattoo right across my chest, but in the movie I just have an eagle tattoo on one side of my chest, because that would have involved, you know, shaving all my chest hair, and I wasn't down with that, quite frankly.
Not happening.
But we both did a lot of work with the dialect coach, and, you know, wanted to make it as specific as possible in terms of the accent from this town in New Jersey. So, you know, we're actors, so we wanted to stretch our range and get these characters rather, as specific and as right as we could, as per the books.
And my last question is, what was it like working with Katherine Heigl?
Jason worked with her a lot more than I did. I would say that it was a wonderful experience. You know, she was actually an executive producer on this film, and you can sometimes work with somebody who's executive producing the thing that you're in, and it kind of feels a little weird. You're like, I'm acting with my boss. But she did a great job of, you know, never calling that to mind while we were on set. It just kind of was a very easy and really wonderful working experience in a great working environment. So.
Yeah, I never felt like she was my boss either, even though essentially, you know, she's on the executive producer list. But she worked really hard to preserve the spirit of the books in the film, and she and the director Julianne Robinson always presented a sort of an atmosphere of collaboration. So I think all of us felt, you know, very involved, and I, for one, am very proud of the work we did at the end of the day.
Well, very good, guys. Thank you for answering my questions, and it was great talking with you.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
Bye-bye.
My last guest is John Campbell. He wrote the book Iron Lady, which was then turned into a movie. Iron Lady is about Margaret Thatcher. If you don't know Margaret Thatcher, you're probably missing out on a lot of the 80s, because she played a very pivotal role in British politics throughout the 1980s in the Cold War with Ronald Reagan. We're going to talk to him about his story and his experiences with Margaret Thatcher right now.
This is Jason with the Expressionist magazine and the World of Art radio show, and I'm here talking with John Campbell. He's a award-winning political biographer, and he wrote The Iron Lady, which everybody knows has been turned into an amazing new movie coming out here. So, John, what inspired you to write a book about Margaret Thatcher?
Well, I've been a political biographer all my life. I've written other biographies, but Mrs. Thatcher was the big one. She's the Everest among political figures in Britain. She was there, so I tried to take her on.
And how did she get the name Iron Lady? I'm sure everybody wants to know that.
Ah, that was Very soon after she became leader of the Conservative Party, she made quite a strong Cold War speech attacking the Soviet Union in January 1976, I think it was. And it was the Soviet Red Army newspaper called Red Star, which called her, criticized the speech as a warmongering speech and called her the Iron Lady, which of course was absolutely, I mean, it was meant as an insult, but she embraced it and adopted it it was the perfect thing, as people thought, a woman leader might be weak, might burst into tears at a sign of a crisis. The Iron Lady was exactly the image she needed to portray, and it was the best thing that could have happened to her quite early in her leadership, to be saddled with that, to be saddled with that description was absolutely perfect.
Now, did the United States? I know the United States had a pretty intense Cold War standoff. How did Britain have that same type of standoff with Soviet? Was it as big as the Americans, or was it kind of a little bit less?
Well, I mean, Britain is obviously a smaller player. I mean, the standoff was really between the two superpowers, obviously the Soviet Union and the United States. I mean, Britain, Mrs. Thatcher always cast herself absolutely unflinchingly as America's #1 ally, and she liked playing that role. She formed a very strong relationship with Ronald Reagan. He respected her. They complemented each other very well. She did play quite an important role in talking to Mikhail Gorbachev first, and she said that Gorbachev is someone I can do business with. She recognized him as a different sort of Soviet leader, and she helped, I think, to persuade Reagan that if it was right for the Iron Lady to talk to him, he could talk to him as well. It was, she was a mediator between Reagan and Gorbachev. But she was only, Britain is only a second-rank player in this game. Once she made the introduction, as it were, it was up to Reagan and Gorbachev to do the negotiation.
Now, she was the UK's first female prime minister. How significant was that for the United Kingdom?
Oh, I think it was enormously significant. It was. I mean, that was part. It was her distinctiveness. There hadn't been a female prime minister before. There hasn't been anyone since who's got very close to it. We've had other ministers, but not a prime minister. It was an extraordinary achievement to have made it to prime minister by being stronger and tougher and better informed than all the men. That's what the film brings out so well. The battle she had to break through for that. But once she'd made it, the fact of being female just made her different, made her a star, made her visible on the world stage in a way that another man in a suit wouldn't have been. And she played up to that distinctiveness brilliantly. She used her gender very effectively.
Now, when you wrote the book, did you ever think it was going to be made into a movie? And what are your thoughts on it? And did the movie actually closely resemble your book?
Well, no, I think you should say that the film is not a film of my book. My book was written as a biography several years before the film was made. They used my book as source material for the film, and one can see, I'm delighted to see where they got some of the stuff from. But I mean, it is not an adaptation of my book. It's very well scripted by Abby Morgan and very accurate because they relied on my book for the material. But it's not. You shouldn't be describing it as a film of my book.
Okay. Well, that's very good to know, though. I mean, that's still got to play some, importance that you helped give the accuracy for this book.
I hope so. Yes. Sure. Yeah. And I hope the movie will help to sell my book.
Now, you've probably seen the movie or a screening of it so far. How do you feel about Meryl Streep's performance as Margaret Thatcher? Did she do a good job? Did she capture Margaret Thatcher as we would know her?
Oh yes, she does a fantastic job. I mean, it is uncanny for anyone who lived through that period in Britain, hearing her voice, seeing her, she's got everything, the tilt of the head, the breathing, the sort of lowering of the voice for effect. I mean, it is an uncannily accurate portrayal. It is brilliant.
Well, I know I can't wait to see this movie, and that's about all we have for you right now, so I thank you for coming on and spending some time with me.
Oh, thank you very much for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me, everybody. This has been a great show. I hope you enjoyed these interviews, and I hope you go out and see these movies, because they're absolutely worth watching. Now, we have more guests, and we have more shows coming up with you soon, And you can always go see our stuff on www.theamemagazine.com. Just click the 3 logos up there. We have the radio, magazine, and television. Something you definitely want to check out often. Come back every week, and also check out our radio show, which comes on every Saturday night. Good night, everybody.